these elementary school students. So I was really pleased to be able to contribute my work for this great initiative. They've also received several grants from the Department of Justice, Lighthouse grants, which I was very happy to help them work on their grant application, and was pleased that they were able to receive. They also actually received just yesterday, Madam Speaker, it was announced that our local Truro Credit Union has now actually come up, and the Truro Community Credit Union has just awarded $2,500 to 2 local anti-bullying initiatives, the Kids Helpline and KISS, the Cyber Internet Safety Society. And the Cyber Internet Safety Society has been supported in large part by the town of Truro and now by the Truro Police Board. So this initiative is not over yet, Madam Speaker, and it's nice to see it growing and growing in the amount of people that are aware of it and the children that are aware of it. So I just wanted to bring that information to the House floor today as well. Also, I'm really pleased that our Department of Education and our Department of Justice has really come up shining on this issue at a time when really, Madam Speaker, no other government has even addressed this issue. In fact, I've been told that the last Conservative government, the Minister of Education, who is actually now the member for Colchester North in the Liberal Party, was actually approached by one of our NDP members, the member for Halifax Atlantic, and she was approached about the problem of bullying, but nothing was done about it, Madam Speaker. So I don't really understand why she's now speaking today and scornfully addressing us on this House over here and the Minister of Education here for actually doing something. To me, that doesn't really make sense, Madam Speaker, so perhaps that's something she might want to talk about next time. Also, there is no federal component for education, Madam Speaker, because, of course, education is covered by the provinces. So when somebody says, well, what have you done with the federal government, that actually is covered by the Department of Justice, Madam Speaker. And in fact, our Minister of Justice just came back from Ottawa, where he had meetings about this very, very issue. Also, we've also heard that the Minister of Education has had many meetings with the various ministers from around the country about this issue, and she is in fact the chair of CMEC, and bullying is very, very much on their agenda, and in fact is one of their #1 priorities, which she spoke with them about as recently as last week. There are many phone calls going back and forth, Madam Speaker, and when they meet in person, that is on the agenda. We've already seen several changes in the Department of Education with schools right across Nova Scotia. Every staff member, every bus driver, everybody, every EA, every teacher, and all the principals now have to report all incidents of bullying, and the department has developed an actual software, Madam Speaker, that is already being used in order to report every incident, so that at the end of the year we'll be able to get a report about the bullying behavior. And all staff members have also been trained now how to report and what to report, so that everybody is on the same page. I think, Madam Speaker, this speaks volumes to what this government is doing. And it's interesting to note that CTV has certainly noticed what we're doing, because in fact last night it was quoted both by Lisa Laflemme and another reporter that Nova Scotia, quote, Nova Scotia walked the walk today. Instead of just talking about change, they've done it. I think that says a lot. So, Madam Speaker, I have one last thing I'd like to mention about this issue before I sit down, and that is that in Truro Bible Hill, we did have a candlelight vigil for Amanda Todd, who is another innocent victim of bullying from British Columbia. And the reason we had that of candlelight vigil in Truro, Madam Speaker, is because her aunt, Leanna Todd, is a very good friend of mine, lives in Truro now, and she asked me to participate in that candlelight vigil, which she held in honor of her niece. And Madam Speaker, hundreds of people came, we spoke, we cried, we sang. My 12-year-old nephew, Aidan Zan Rowland, wrote a song called Ghost Before My Time with his aunt, with me, last summer at the cottage, and we performed that with his 9-year-old brother on drums. He played bass, I sang, I wrote the lyrics, he wrote the music, and his little sister, who's 8 years old, and all her little girlfriends got up dressed in pink with anti-bullying slogans saying, "Tell the haters that we don't hate. Say no to haters." And they danced and sang and got the crowd jiving with them. And I'll tell you, Madam Speaker, there wasn't a dry eye in the park. So with that, I want to say, let's say no to bullying. Let's say no to bullying each other in this House. And adults, please, say no to bullying and walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. Support the bill. Thank you very much.
Now recognize the honourable member for Bedford Birch Cove.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do want to point out to the members opposite that the Liberals will be supporting this bill. Any steps that make young people safer are positive. We are, however, disappointed that it took the government so long to act. And while we will be supporting this bill, it's taken far too long to see these changes come forward. We don't understand why the government didn't act on these recommendations when they came forward 14 months ago. In fact, the NDP voted down our amendments that would have given the then cyberbullying bill some teeth. They took the conscious decision. They didn't just, fail to act. They actually voted down amendments that would have strengthened that bill. That wasn't a sin of omission. That was a sin of commission. They decided to do that. And you have to ask yourself, how was that making life better or safer for Nova Scotian families? Madam Speaker, too many young people have died. A week ago, actually just as I left this parking lot, I got a phone call from a mom. We had been going back and forth on email, and I had given her my cell number. And I had a phone call from a mother whose daughter has been bullied at school. And that tells you that the bullying law that we had in place either is not effective or is not being applied. And what has so disappointed this young woman who's being bullied is that the very people that she trusted to ensure her safety, to make sure she wasn't being bullied, have let her down. I talked to her disappointed mom, and she said, "We feel bullied again by a system that just hung us out to dry and didn't do anything." At Law Amendments, we heard from the parents of bullied children. We heard from a mother who had lost her child due to bullying. And her comment, and I will reiterate it because my colleague from Colchester North mentioned that, after the NDP members in Law Amendments voted down those amendments, she said, "I feel like I've been slapped in the face." And that's the way a lot of bullied kids and their families feel right now. They feel like they've been let down. And don't get me wrong, they're happy to see this stuff coming forward, these bills. They're really pleased, as are we. But let's not forget, we're in this position today because as legislators, the important work that we're entrusted to do did not get done well enough. I understand that the members opposite may not like that, but the fact of the matter is, those members on the opposite side of the House voted down provisions that would have strengthened the anti-bullying law, that could have stopped this.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. Professor Wayne McKay's report recommended talking to the federal government. It was a suggestion that would have cost nothing, the price of a stamp, and yet we did not see a letter go to the government until this month. All that time passed, and it wasn't a priority. 14 months, all that time, nothing was done. The government members could have allowed amendments that would have removed access to a website. They chose not to. Nova Scotians know that the NDP dropped the ball on this, and not just because they just failed to act, they willfully decided not to take those amendments. And they did these things even in the face of expert advice. We didn't just, you didn't have to listen to us, fine, but you could have listened to the experts who appeared before that committee, who wrote the report. You had an option, you decided not to do it. That was the NDP's choice. They only decided to act when, as the Premier put it, we were embarrassed on an international stage. This week, there was a letter to the editor in the Herald, and its title was "Teach Respect, I Implore You as a Rape Survivor." And I want to commend Doreen Cody for coming forward and publishing her report in the newspaper. She makes a couple of points that I thought were really key. She says, "As a youth, I was raped, I was drunk, and I was a virgin. I can speak for many friends who experienced their first sexual encounter the same way. The same problem existed over 20 years ago and is clearly still very prevalent." And then she goes on to say later in the article, "There is no question in my mind that given today's prevalence of social media and the increased comfort with sharing details and visuals, I would have met the same fate as Ratea when I was raped." I would point out to the members opposite that Facebook was invented or came into being in 2005. Twitter was even later. And this has been an evolving issue. What has been an issue of communications 1 year is not the next year. It has changed. I think we all know kids who were bullied, or we may have been bullied ourselves growing up. And at least when you got in the door, you didn't have to worry about a constant onslaught from social media. That's changed, that's evolved, and that has certainly been exacerbated over the past 4 years. Proof of the effectiveness of this bill will be when we see action. We see that kids actually get protected. Because let's face it, there are already laws against sexual assault. There are already laws against harassment, and yet that doesn't always protect our young people. I do hope that at some point in this whole process, the kids who are bullied and their families are going to get an opportunity to have some input to the minister, whether it's through the task force or in some other form. But I really do hope that there is some way where they're going to get to say to the minister or her staff what happened to them, how it felt, because I'm not sure we really understand the depth or breadth of it and what it does to a kid when their school year is ruined or their school life is ruined because someone at their school has decided to bully them. I would hope that at some point we're going to take some of those advertising dollars that I spoke about yesterday and educate young people and not so young people about what constitutes consent. Because I believe that the vast majority of young people do not know what constitutes consent. And they think, you know, that if you get another person drunk and you have sex with them, you have consent, because they said yes. But they may not be able to actually consent. And people need to know this. People need to stop and think about that. I have found the last few weeks excruciating. I don't know what it's been like for other members, whether they've been contacted by people in their riding who are being bullied, who have been sexually assaulted, who have been through this kind of thing. It may just be because of my critic portfolio that I had more phone calls, but I have found it excruciating to listen to these stories over and over again. And the worst part is that I sit here and I know that at least some of it might have been prevented or stopped if we had acted sooner. That's what really bothers me. You know, there are names that are now forever etched in our memories. Young people who should only have had their names etched in our memories because of their achievements, not because they died too young. So Jenna Bowers, Courtney Brown, Amanda Todd, Ratea Parsons, we know their names. And we know their names not because they got to do the great things they planned in life. We know their names because their lives were cut short because other people decided that they wanted to bully them. They may be our neighbors' kids, they may be our relatives, but there are just too many of them. If there are kids out today who happen to be listening to us, I want to tell you what a young woman who was bullied told me the other day. She said, "It gets better. You're going to get out of high school and you'll find out when you go on to post-secondary education that nobody cares what you're wearing, if you wear different clothes, if your hair is blue, if you have bad acne, whatever. Nobody's going to care about that. What they're going to care about is, are you smart? Do you work hard? Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you have a talent? It's going to completely change. The people who torment you in public school, in high school, they're not going to be there. You're going to have a great life. Hang in there, get help, and it will get better. Thank you.
The honourable member for Hants West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Happy to take a few minutes this morning and offer a few comments on what I think is an important step in this legislature, an important bill that's gone forward. As most would know, this has been something that has been on the minds of this caucus for some time. We've put legislation forward, as of others, but it's taken a while to get where we are. Well, okay, but we are here. We have put something forward. We can be critical if we want to be. We all know, looking back, the unfortunate circumstances, very serious circumstances that go on every day. I've gotten calls in my office as well from people that don't even live in my constituency regarding this issue. That is not uncommon. I think they know that we as legislators are raising the issue. We've been talking about it. Of course, it's been in the media, and when we have the circumstances where we have a case that we're all aware of, and I always hate raising people's names in here, and I'm not going to, but where we have people who have taken their own lives in this circumstance, this has gone on for some time, I can tell you thank you.
The honourable member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to I just wanted to say that when I listened to the minister introduce this bill this morning, it was really probably one of the proudest moments for me to be in this House. I know that this bill isn't perfect, but I do also know, Madam Speaker, that it's way ahead of where we were yesterday. And one of the jobs that I think we have as legislature, members of the legislature, is to give people hope. And I think today, the minister, with this bill, is doing that. And that each of us that are here should be proud of the fact that we are taking a nonpartisan stand and doing something that will make a difference for the future of our province and our children. Somebody once asked me why I ever got involved in politics. And I said I had 3 reasons, and that were my 3 children. Well, Madam Speaker, that has increased, because now I have 4 grandchildren. And if we in this House don't look after the future for those people, not just mine, but all of our families, then I think we have failed. So I think what we need to do here is look at each other and say, let's move on with this. It is a beginning. It is not the end. It is a place that will take us to allow us, as a group, to make an improvement in the quality of life and help the families who have been mentioned here by many others today. So, Madam Speaker, I look forward to the opportunity of this going forward to law amendments and for it to come back here with whatever changes that we see necessary and are ready to move forward to make a difference. And it's one of those bills that I hope we didn't take a whole lot of time to get it to where it needs to be, and that we all do what is right for the people of Nova Scotia as they expect us to do. Thank you.
I just want to make sure there was no one over here. Now recognize the honourable member for Cape Breton North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as my 2 previous colleagues have echoed what we try to say on this side, we've been all here hearing the situations that are going on in our province and throughout the country over the last number of months. It's only been a short time here for me, but I've heard and seen the effects that bullying and cyberbullying have had on people in my community and people within our province. And I know we've all introduced legislation and we've tried to make changes to legislation that's already been introduced. And as the 2 previous speakers and speakers that before us have said, we're proud that this is a starting point. We hope it's not the end point, because we know that this legislation is good legislation, but it can be improved. And we, on this side of the House, as well as hopefully anyone else on the other side of the House, is willing to put all our differences aside to make sure that we make this legislation the best we can to protect everybody in society, but especially the most vulnerable in our children, especially in situations where we know the technology. I'm not as technological savvy as some of the people that may be here or some of our children are, and I get a lot of help from my own children in doing this. And I just hope that we'll all work together to make this the best legislation we can. If there are amendments to be made, that the government of the day will accept those amendments. And if there's amendments they want to put in, that we'll accept their amendments, and we'll make sure that we push to make sure this becomes law as quick as possible to protect the most vulnerable in our society. And hopefully it will be adopted by other jurisdictions in the country to protect every child in this country that may be touched by bullying or cyberbullying, and to make sure that when a kid goes to school, they get to learn what they need to learn and not how to protect themselves. So we have to protect them, do that protection for them. And with that, Madam Speaker, I'll take my seat as well.
Thank you. Time to recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for the status of women. It will be to close debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to close debate on Bill 61, but I'd like to make a few comments first. I want to thank my honourable colleagues for their comments on this bill. I certainly appreciate how emotional the topic is, because I think we all, while honouring the young people of our province, we're humans first, and I think we put our children and our grandchildren's faces on this bill, and we want to make it a safer place for them. So this legislation will better protect youth and all Nova Scotians from cyberbullying and violence in this province, and it gives out a strong, clear message to cyberbullies that their online actions, that they have to be accountable for their online actions. And I want to set a little bit of context here. My caucus and my cabinet and the Premier of this province are fully in support of taking a broad-based approach to this, and I don't want to be seen as being defensive here, but quite frankly, we have been working on a lot of these issues behind the scenes for the past 4 years. And I know, for example, 2 of us have been the minister responsible for the Advisory Council on the Status of Women, and have been working with our Atlantic colleagues on cyber-safe programs and a website for young girls in the Atlantic Canada. And it's an excellent, excellent website. And the work has gone extremely well, and I highly recommend it to everyone who wants to be better informed about how we can encourage and counsel our young people to better look after themselves and to know what the risks are. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of work going on, but I think this incident has driven us to fast-track that work, and you'll be hearing more about those initiatives over the next few weeks. As you recognize, this is a societal issue that's been around for generations. Violence against women's been happening for thousands of years. But I think what we've seen is an awareness and a synergy and a collective will that this time we are going to make things different. And I am just so encouraged by the response from across Nova Scotia and the support within this chamber. If there's any credit for this bill, we will share it with you and all the civil servants who worked on this bill for well into the night during this week. Because we want, we recognize the research and effort and time you have spent on these issues as well. And this bill has to be a joint effort. It really does. When it goes to law amendments, perhaps there are some improvements, but we have to get started. We have to send a strong signal out to Nova Scotians that the legislature of Nova Scotia is taking this seriously, and that we will do everything in our power to make this a safer Nova Scotia for all residents, especially our young. And I do want to reassure you that the balance of the recommendations from the Task Force on Bullying and Cyberbullying are under active consideration. They are being looked at in terms of implementing them. And so it's like major initiatives everywhere. You do your short-term, your medium-term, and your long-term implementation. And that's exactly what's happening here. And I'm so pleased to be working more closely with Wayne McKay. But I have to assure you that the Department of Education, the other departments that would have been impacted by those recommendations, have been actively working on them over the past 14 months, I think someone said. So we're going to fast track that. Are we doing enough? Probably not. Are there gaps? Yes. And we're going to be looking at those, because this is a real opportunity for everyone in Nova Scotia at all levels of government, across community and government, to do a better job, not to be, protecting our own particular, mission or turf, but to look at new ways of relating to one another, working together. And I have been blessed over the last 2 weeks to meet with groups of people. I met with youth. I met with the District Health Authority CEOs. I met with the superintendents. I was able to speak to a number of municipal, recreational, and volunteer leaders. And without a doubt, every single person is on side. So we have to take that renewed commitment, that energy, and move it into something that is going to improve our province. And the momentum is there, the will is there, and I know it's going to make a difference. So I just want to commit that we will continue to work in partnership with you, with our community groups, across all departments of government. Our response to this has to be a multifaceted approach. This legislation is just one small piece. It may be significant, but it is one small piece of what we need to be doing together. And I just want to finish off by saying I think what's come out of all of this is that we want a more respectful, a more caring province. And I'm saying, and I know it starts with me, it starts with us, it starts with all Nova Scotians to put more energy, time, and priority on making our communities as safe as possible. Because everyone in this province, but especially our young, deserves to work, learn, live, and play safely. So I know you're all on board, and I really appreciate that. So with those comments, Madam Speaker, I will close debate and thank everyone sincerely.
The question is for second reading of Bill number 61, Cyber Safety Act. Is the House ready for the question? All in favour say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill number 61, entitled An Act to Address and Prevent Cyberbullying.
Ordered that Bill number 61, the Cyber Safety Act, is referred to the Committee on Law Amendments. I now recognize the honourable member for Halifax-Chebucto on an introduction.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. For the second time today, I'm happy to welcome to observe us at our work in the legislature another class from St. Catherine's School, another grade 3 class, this time Madame LeBlanc's class. The students are also grade 3 students. They're accompanied, I believe, by Kevin Zwicker, Taylor Paul, and Mr. Carvery. We have, I think, at least 16 of the students I counted there sitting in the gallery. I would ask members to join me in welcoming these students to observe our proceedings.
We welcome all of our guests to today's proceedings. I'll now recognize the Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, would you please call for second reading Bill number 51, the Financial Measures Act.
Now call for second reading Bill number 51. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that Bill number 51, the Financial Measures Act, now be read a second time. Madam Speaker, as we all know, this bill is the act that makes measures introduced in the budget that passed earlier in the week. It brings them into force, ensuring the success of our financial plan. Madam Speaker, Budget 2013 represents a significant achievement for our government and, most importantly, for all Nova Scotians. We made a commitment to balance the budget, and we did it. Each year since coming into office, my colleague, the member for Halifax Fairview, former Minister of Finance, stood here before this House to introduce the Financial Measures Act, and each time he reminded us all of the path to balance that we were on. In the 4th year of this plan, I'm pleased that I'm able to introduce and have introduced the Financial Measures Act, and to demonstrate that the strategic choices that have been made were strategic choices about making life more affordable, creating good jobs, and growing the economy, and helping to make life better for families in all parts of our province. Madam Speaker, balancing the budget isn't solely based on finances. It's also about creating balance within our province. And I know just how hard Nova Scotians work to make life better for their families and loved ones. Over the last 4 years, our government has made changes to help make life more affordable for families, for individuals, and for seniors. We have taken the provincial portion of the HST off basic electricity and home heat, and off children's diapers, children's clothing, children's footwear, as well as feminine hygiene products. We have increased the maximum HST rebate for first-time home buyers, and we have kept rebates in place for new vehicles for the physically impaired, for computers for the visually and hearing impaired and mentally and physically challenged, as well as equipment used for municipal firefighting and volunteer fire departments. Madam Speaker, essential items are just that, essential. And these rebates help make sure Nova Scotians can keep the heat on and afford to buy the things they and their families need to live. Madam Speaker, this year's Financial Measures Act therefore includes a provincial referendum, which will now be required to ask for approval from a majority of Nova Scotians before the provincial portion of the HST can be added back to these essential items. We have heard from Nova Scotians that these exemptions from the provincial portion of the HST have made a difference. They have helped people make ends meet. And we think it's very important that these items stay exempted. We also strongly believe that Nova Scotians should have their say in any future action that could alter or eliminate these actions. This change gives that to each and every Nova Scotian, more of a say in the everyday costs that affect their lives. Now, Madam Speaker, there are other important changes in this year's Financial Measures Act. Our government listened to Nova Scotians when they said exemptions on the provincial portion of the HST for essential items make a real difference. And we also listened to the concerns of the business community. We heard small business owners when they said lower tax rates would help them thrive, and we took action. We reduced the income tax for the majority of small businesses to historic lows. Changes to the FMA follow through on our commitment to reduce the rate of corporate income tax for small businesses. For the 4th year in a row, this rate will fall by 0.5 percentage point to 3% starting in January 2014. Over 4 years, we have lowered the small business tax by 2 percentage points. This has meant almost $78 million in savings for small businesses. Savings that can be reinvested to compete, to grow their business, and to hire new employees. This year's reduction brings the tax rate for small business to the lowest it's been in more than 20 years. The FMA will also lower the small business limit threshold to $350,000. 93% of small businesses are not impacted by the threshold change, and they will save $26 million in 13-14 and more than $33 million per year when the rate reduction is fully implemented. Madam Speaker, the Corporate Capital Tax Act is also being updated to clarify language. The amendments will clarify items that corporations must include in taxable capital. They will also clarify that the province does not pay interest on overpayments of corporate capital tax. These housekeeping changes will make the intent clearer and bring wording in line with current accounting standards and the practices of other jurisdictions, particularly the federal jurisdiction. Madam Speaker, this year's FAM is also important to low-income seniors. Amendments to the Income Tax Act will give more low-income seniors tax relief. Since the 2010 tax year, many low-income seniors receiving the Guaranteed Income Supplement benefited from not having to pay provincial income tax. This put an average of $450 per year back into the hands of 17,000 seniors who needed it most. This year, we are introducing a new provincial age amount tax credit, and it will do two very important things. First, this new tax credit will increase the number of low-income seniors who do not pay any provincial tax to 25,000 from 17,000. Second, 4,000 more low-income seniors will see a portion of their provincial income tax returned to them. In total, Madam Speaker, 29,000 seniors will receive income tax relief. This means a great deal when your income is fixed. On April the 1st, a new nonprofit corporation took over responsibility for pension and investment administration for all public service superannuation plans. This was the accumulation of several years of work under this government to modernize how the province's largest public pension plan is governed. Directors representing employers, employees, and retirees now have responsibility for the plan. The plan is now in line with Canada's leading pension plans, and the plan is more secure over the long term. To ensure that retired employees are represented by a member reflecting their interests, the FMA will make changes to the Nova Scotia Pension Services Corporation Act. These amendments will put the Nova Scotia Government Retired Employees Association in the position to choose their own representative on the trustee board. And as we have already announced, Madam Speaker, most provincial user fees will increase to match the provincial consumer price index. No one likes when the price of something goes up, but the increase is needed to maintain the current level of services that Nova Scotians have come to depend on. This adjustment will be reflected in the respective acts. And Madam Speaker, finally, as you know, the tobacco tax has increased for all tobacco products. Cigarettes, each gram of fine cut tobacco, proportioned tobacco sticks, and all other forms of tobacco. This change, the first in 4 years, will be reflected in amendments to the Revenue Act. Our government wants to help Nova Scotians stop smoking, or even better, to never start. Research shows that higher tobacco prices act as a deterrent, particularly for youth. In other words, higher taxes equal lower consumption. This increase will generate $18.1 million that the province can use to support services that matter most to Nova Scotians, including better care sooner, high-quality education for children, and opportunities to create good-paying jobs. A portion of the revenue from the tobacco tax increase will be directed into our comprehensive tobacco control strategy. Our total investment in smoking cessation in 2013 will almost double to $1 million. This will benefit Nova Scotians and help relieve pressure on our healthcare system. So with those few words regarding the Financial Measures Act, I have already moved second reading of Bill number 51. And Madam Speaker, I would move that we adjourn debate on this.
Thank you. The motion is that we adjourn debate on Bill number 51. All in favour say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. I now recognize the Deputy Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that concludes the government business for today. Move that the House do rise to meet again Monday, April the 29th at 4 p.m. with the House hours to be from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Following daily routine, we will call public bills for second reading, bills number 51 and bill number 62. Bill 51 and Bill 62, and we will also call, if time permits, address in reply. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The motion is that we do now rise to meet again Monday, April the 29th, between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. All in favour say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. I hope that you all have an enjoyable weekend and that you take the time to re-energize yourself, and we'll meet again on Monday for some good parliamentary debate.